Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It is Monday, November 8th, 2021. I'm Andrew Hansen alongside Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach. And eights are wild, Coach. 8 games on the NBA slate tonight. Big news just coming across the wire here right before we record this at lunchtime with Mr. Embiid on the sidelines. Are you ready to break this down?
I am. It should be an interesting week of NBA. We're starting to have some of the big studs fall out because of COVID protocol, and from what I just read from one of the Philly beat writers, it's not just one of those, you're out a day or so. It looks like extended day absence for Drummond. For Embiid, and I say Drummond because we got to grab him tonight in those mid-5 price numbers, and just he's a free square, and then we'll see how his price goes from there. But we know that he's very capable of a big double-double, and at least we have one spot filled already.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. You want to say Drummond because we want to get him in our lineups. And interesting that Philly already has some guys out with Tobias and Thibault, et cetera. And they're in game one here. So we can definitely get our lineup set on both sites. So let's do that here game by game. There's only one 7 o'clock tip off. It is New York in Philly with a low total here of 211. Philly favored by 4.5. And it's a back-to-back for New York, front end for Philly. And normally we would look at this game and not be too excited about it. But with all this injury news and COVID news, we got to dissect this one. And really, it's the Philly side that we have to talk about there, with Tobias out, Embiid out, Thibault out, Isaiah Joe out, and Danny Green questionable. He did go through shoot-around apparently today, so possibly trending towards playing. No real injury news on the New York side, but we have Kemba coming back. He was resting on the front end last night. So kick it off for us, Coach.
Yeah. The exciting part about this game is it should be a hotly contested game. Vegas line right now is Philadelphia minus 0.5 point. So you need to explain that one to me, Andrew. NBA games can't end in a tie.
Right. So, well, we got to have somebody win the bet. And I'm glad you updated that, because I wrote down the line about an hour ago, and it has shifted dramatically since the Embiid news came out. So now it's almost a pick 'em.
It basically is, because go ahead and take the 0.5. See how much good that does.
Yeah, right.
So the implied total in this game, it's interesting. Like you say, everything shifted with the Embiid news. The Knicks are 105.5, and Philadelphia is 106. So not super exciting on either side. But, like I said at the top of the show here, 5.7 for Andre Drummond on DraftKings, and similar pricing and on FanDuel and Yahoo, also very good pricing. I just think you plug him in. I mean, he's a lock. I think that his production at that price and the minutes that we're anticipating, it's not like they can go play super small ball, because you've got that combination of Mitch Robb and Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson and Julius Randle. They have some big dudes up front. I expect Drummond to get monster minutes there. Let's bust the Knicks side down a little bit here. Kemba Walker coming back, the split with Derrick Rose just does not excite me. I don't care if the price is cheap or not, just not real fired up to go there. Fournier had a decent shooting night last night, but, I don't like taking him on back-to-back games, especially if Danny Green does play and guards him some. And then other than that, though, Barrett's overpriced. Randall at 9.7. I get it. But I don't want any part of the center sharing. So more than likely, Andrew, I'm going to be past City on the Knicks.
I'm past City as well. Yep. If they get one of those guards down to near minimum price, maybe, but no need to go there with lots of value on this slate. So I think it's all about that Philly side. We get Drummond in there. I'm with you there. And then we got to just find out if Danny Green is playing. If he starts and if Milton goes back to the bench, he's not as attractive. He's really stepped up in Green's absence, though. His price is still fair if Green is out. Maxey, Curry, they're fairly priced again. Curry, by the way, 60, 50, 87 shooting line on the season. He is really stroking it.
That's outlandish.
Yeah. But for me, most likely it would be another value play if we really wanted to load up on some studs. You've got Paul Reed at 3,300 on DraftKings as a potential starter. Korkmaz has picked it up. And the rotation is just really tight if Danny Green is out. They may only go like 8 deep. So I could get a second sixer in here. I just want to see if Danny Green is starting.
Yeah, the problem with me with the Sixers now is that tight rotation, but right now it's a strong 8, even with Embiid out, and that's what scares me. I mean, the Maxey, Curry, Korkmaz, Milton is a timeshare. Let's face it, those Maxey with a little edge there, of course, but all 4 of them are going to get minutes. And then, I'm all about trying to take a value guy in Paul Reed, but he's probably not going to play as much as George Niang. He's 4'6" and will probably get more minutes, and to me is more interesting than Reed. But I'm probably just going to take Drummond, and this game starts an hour before the other 7 games, so I may just drum my way to that first game here and be done with it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Got a nice GIF you put in main chat there with the news.
I was wondering if anybody picked that up and wanted to see what I was putting in there.
All right, game 2 at 8 o'clock. This one's on NBA TV, doubleheader tonight. Brooklyn and Chicago, 214.5 total. Chicago favored by 1.5. Brooklyn coming in on back-to-back. Nice win over Toronto. And, Coach, before you break down the Brooklyn side, I just got to throw out here that Brooklyn is ranked 4th defensively in efficiency. And did you know that 6 of their last 8 games, they've held their opponents under 100 points?
That's amazing.
Can you imagine if we'd said last year that was going to happen at the beginning of the season? Nobody would have believed it.
Well, I'll tell you, I've been preaching it on these podcasts every day with our 7-day-a-week podcast is you really have to look at these numbers now. The defensive efficiency numbers, the pace numbers, they are dramatically different from last year. And a lot of that is because there's new players on a lot of teams and the configuration of the way they play. Coaches have adjusted. I think Steve Nash and his staff just realized, listen, we can win an NBA championship, but we can't if we have one of the worst 3 defenses in the league. So they've changed strategy a little bit, slowed the ball down enough that they can, get themselves in a good defensive position and not giving up loose turnovers where the other teams are getting easy offensive transition hoops. So yeah, I think you make a great point there, and it is something to be aware of. Now it is a small sample size, whatever, everybody's like 9 or 10 games, but it is definitely newsworthy.
Yeah, and you mentioned the pace. They are down to 23rd, so slower pace, saving a little energy for defense. And then injury-wise tonight, Claxton out, James Johnson questionable. So what are your thoughts there on the Brooklyn side?
Well, the spread here is Chicago minus 1.5, 107.5 for their total on the Nets side, and Chicago's 109. So still, you like to see 110 plus for me. It gives me a little bit of a check mark to like them better. People are going to, this is going to be an NBA TV game, so it's going to get a little bit more play than normal. Also, they hear these teams and they think, oh my gosh, it's going to be an explosion. Harden, Durant, Ball, Levine, DeRozan, Vukovic, DFS points through the roof. I think this game's going to be over-owned, Andrew, and I'm not going to go as heavy on it. I like some other games, and I'm going to be a little bit more patient in my build. Harden's 10-1 and Durant's 9-9. So those are the 2 obvious key guys you want to look at from the Brooklyn side. Certainly, I feel that you can be pretty comfortable buying up to either one, but not both. Not on an 8-game slate, in my opinion. And believe it or not, I'm leaning a little bit more towards KD in this game as opposed to James Harden. I just think the interior defense from Chicago is a little shaky. Green is a youngster in there, and Vuk's not a good defender. They'll use a combination of some guys off the bench, like Derrick Jones Jr. will probably come in to guard KD a little bit, but I still think he's a strong play. And that would probably be the only guy I'd look at. I don't want to get in that mix of all the other timeshares of the other 6 guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this game, we need to be a little cautious with it and don't need to go all in here. I'm also with you. I lean Durant over Harden. I just don't think they have a matchup for him. Javonte Green undersized. Vucevic will be dealing with the centers. Derek Jones Jr., like you said, could be out there some, but just not imposing defensively. So I think Durant's in the best spot there for the Nets. And not thrilled with the rest of that team, but Blake Griffin, who started the season poorly, has had 3 strong games recently. He's 4,300. He is power forward eligible on DraftKings, so he's the other guy I might take a look at. But yeah, not fired up about this game. Chicago side, they're 8th defensively so far this year, off to a strong start, 6-3. Nice mix of guys here gelling so far. But in terms of selecting one of them, Brooklyn taking it more serious defensively. So the names are a little bit better than the plays, I think, tonight. The price tags aren't that cheap. So for me, maybe DeMar DeRozan, he's getting up good 20 shots a game. He and Levine are really chucking it. Lonzo and Vucevic have suffered a little bit in terms of shot attempts. So I probably won't go there. I mean, this could be the day for Lonzo to get it going. We'll see who Bruce Brown guards. He could give Levine some trouble. So if I'm going to go anybody on Chicago right now, I'm leaning DeMar DeRozan, but I don't think you need to. So yeah, I'm going to be lightly owned here, just like you.
Yeah, a couple things I want to say real quick so I don't forget. Griffin, I like in games where LaMarcus takes a game off, and they're really trying to, bring him in slowly. He's getting decent minutes when he plays, but I don't like when Griffin and Aldridge play because it really is a total split minutes there. And then a Chicago side, I like Lonzo Ball. And the reason being is I can almost guarantee that Bruce Brown is going to be up in Zach LaVine's, jersey. That's who he's going to be assigned to. And I think Joe Harris, who is an underrated, he's a good DRPM guy. I know that stat's not perfect, but he's done well against opposing small forwards. So I think he'll at least keep DeRozan in check enough to not, pay off that 8.2 K salary and Levine at 8.6. So for me, I'd rather go down to Lonzo Ball at 6.8 with James Harden defense and, maybe Patty Mills defense off the bench. I think Lonzo can have a nice game, and he grabs those extra rebounds and can really, fill it up as far as the periphery stats. Vuk's a little interesting to me, Andrew. I know he's 8'6", and that's a lot, but again, the timeshare at center, not having Claxton at all is actually important because Griffin and Aldridge aren't true centers. They're fours. They never played the 5 much in their careers. Now Aldridge did way back in the Portland days, but he's more of a 4. So Vuk's on my radar. He'll probably make a GPP lineup, but Ball's really my target. And if you want to go super low, Alex Caruso at 4.2 is going to get minutes. He comes in, he backs up at multiple positions and gets a decent amount of minutes. But it's hard to go to guys like that on an 8-game slate.
Yeah, I mean, hearing about Lonzo, I mean, of all the games, this could be the day. But these 4 guys here, I just don't like, the fact that in terms of fantasy, especially the other 3, they're all in the mid 8K range.
Yeah.
And they're just not. It's just tough with the usage. If they were all 7,000, it would be a lot different. But
yeah, Chicago's not a DFS friendly team anymore. Not with all the splitting.
Right. All right, game 3, we've got Minnesota and Memphis. 218.5, another 8 o'clock tip. Memphis favored by 6 at home. And the news here, we've got D'Angelo Russell questionable. And on the Memphis side, we still have Dylan Brooks out. So why don't you kick off that Minnesota side?
Yeah, you've got two implied totals here that are solid. 105.25 for Minnesota, which is okay, not great, but enough in a game with this much pace. Memphis 111.25, so that's the highest thus far. Still not, the greatest, but there's some definite interest here. D'Angelo Russell news is extremely important. I'm not going to be a sucker and fall for the Patrick Beverly. He destroyed my lineup the other night when he started a point when D'Angelo was out. So that won't happen again. If D'Angelo sits, I'll put my attention more towards Anthony Edwards. He is 8K, which isn't that great, but D'Angelo chucks some shots, and there's multiple times in watching those games where Edwards flares out and is open, and D'Angelo is going to take that shot where the other guards will give him the ball. Beverly's going to give him the ball. McLaughlin, if he's in there, whoever it is on that at the point. So that news I need for D'Angelo, because that'll be a key point for me with Anthony Edwards. You get a lot of cheap prices in this one with some ancillary guys like McDaniels and Prince and Vanderbilt and Beasley. They're all cheap. But man, none of them have really been to the point where I feel like I can put them in a cash, 8-game main slate type of lineup. The big decision will be Cat at 10-3. Is he going to be a buy up for a lot of people? I would assume so. I don't know if I'm going to go there, though. I don't think that's the spot I want for my big cash guy. I think he can do just fine. But again, we're talking about 60 burger plus to make his number. So, for me, it's probably Edwards based on the D'Angelo news, and I'm not getting sucked into that bench anymore.
Yeah, I agree. The Russell domino is huge for Edwards. Much more interested in him if Russell is out. Not really interested in that bench. Beasley will come in and chuck it, but he is GPP only, really, because if he's hitting his shot, he can do it. I'm not going to go to Cat today. Too expensive for me on this slate with Drummond and some other value bigs.
Yeah.
The Memphis side. Now, here's a good time to just remind people, Coach, about Memphis, and you got to get them on the right night, because in that last game they went 15 deep. They had 14 guys play at least 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
You just can't, when they're involved in a back-to-back, typically you just can't go there. Jaw is the only consideration. They're not in a back-to-back here. Neither team is. And you referenced the pace here. Both teams top 5 in pace.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't mind some exposure here. But, on the Memphis side, Jaw is 9,100. So, he's a maybe for me. With the rest of Memphis, they're tough. They're really tough, because now these value wing players, Melton, Bain, are getting priced up a little bit. Triple J, he can have big games, but shooting 34% on the season from the field. So he's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
I love the pace here, but if D'Angelo Russell plays, I may not come out of here with anybody.
Interesting. I mean, I like this team a lot. I really do. I'm probably going to roster 2 Grizzlies today. And a lot of it's based on, I just like the way they're playing. And you made perfect points. You definitely, the points I wanted to make is they're not on a back-to-back. And Coach Jenkins, he's said it, and he does it. When they're on back-to-backs, he uses his bench. He trusts them, and he uses them. When they're not, their main guys get a lot more minutes. I mean, he's trying to really, manage those minutes for guys and not burn them out by the end of the season. So it makes sense. I mean, it's just a perfect thing. Grizzlies avoid on back-to-backs, and you can jump back on them when they're in the right situation when they have a standalone game. And the 111.25, that number is solid. The pace is going to be great. Here's the guys I consider. 4 guys, believe it or not. And I'm probably going to roster 2 of these guys. I think Jaw at 9-1 is very playable. I'm not afraid of that bench defense or the backcourt defense from the T-Wolves. I think DeAnthony Melton could be a decent play at 5-1. He's been the big beneficiary with Brooks not playing this year. Guy that I've been on, and I don't know if he's missed making value, so knock on wood, if I roster him, he does it tonight. But Desmond Bane's only 4.7. And if you look at his numbers, he has really stepped up and taken a big role. There are a lot of times that he's their second guy to Morant. I mean, he's literally stepped up that much. And then the other guy, believe it or not, you're probably surprised, is Steven Adams, only because he's 4.5. And I'm not going to do it on where you can only have one center, like FanDuel, but where you can have multiple centers. If I'm really looking for value, I think Adams at 4.5, he'll rebound the ball. No, he's not going to score it a ton, but Cat's a terrible defender at the center position, and they need Adams on the floor as much as possible to neutralize Cat. So, yeah, I know they have some bench guys that can come in and spell them, but I think he's not a bad value. So more than likely, Andrew, I'm going to go with like a Ja Adams or maybe Melton Bain, some combination of those guys. I just feel like this is like a 115, a 120 total for the Grizzlies tonight. And I want to have some exposure there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about the Adams price. Bain has been very solid. And Ja, I agree. I like him more if Russell's starting. If Beverly's starting, I think he'll be up in his grill all night, making it tough.
Yeah.
So this game it's sort of like a GPP game where if it does go high scoring and close, then it could be important. But we'll see. We'll see. Let's go to the 8:30 game. New Orleans and your Mavericks. And your Mavs are 8.5-point favorites with that 6-3 record. How about New Orleans, a 1-9, just in the doldrums without Zion? Total here 210.5. Injury news: Brandon Ingram questionable. We might get him back out there. Herbert Jones also questionable, and then Kleba out for Dallas. So, what are your thoughts here?
Well, I mean, 8.5-point favoritism for Dallas, even though the Pelicans are not good. I don't think the Mavs have quite played to that record. They still are a work in progress. Porzingis came back last game and he was good, but I feel like I don't think this game blows out is what I'm trying to say. The Pels have a 102, which isn't the greatest. Mavs are implied total 110.5, which is decent. From the Pels side, I mean, you can't really discuss it at all until you decide, you find out if Ingram's playing or not. So that makes it pretty simple. If Ingram plays without restrictions at 8.4, I think, he's that higher mid-level pricing, lower top-level price. I think he's a doable commodity there. I think you have to consider him. The guy that I really like, and I know it's a broken record, but it is what it is. The Mavs don't defend the center position well, period. And Joe Val, I think, is playing really good ball. He's the only player on their team that's really played a lot better than expected. And I thought he'd be a great addition there. And it might change a lot when Cheeseburgers is back. Sorry, I don't hate to be mean about Zion, but right now, Joe Val at 8.5, I like that number. And again, you got that Drummond taking that spot on FanDuel, but on Yahoo and DraftKings, I'll be dialing up a lot of Joe Val, and I'll probably even have him in my FanDuel GPP. I think he's the best play on the Pelican side. Not looking at any of their bench players, and it's probably 100% Joe Val if Ingram sits. I may turn it back just a notch if Ingram plays. I'm not going to play both of them in the same lineup, though.
Yeah, I like Joe Val here. 8 straight double-doubles, big double-doubles, too. He's not just eking by. He's getting, 15 or more rebounds here repeatedly. Yeah. So good option there. I don't think I'll go to Ingram. The hip issue, he could get it done. I just like some of the other guys better in that price range.
He'll get Dorian Finney-Smith defense too, which is no picnic.
Yep. If he sits, the only value guy I'm looking at is Garrett Temple potentially on DraftKings only. If you're playing multiple lineups, he's 3,400. Last 3 games, he's averaged 22 fantasy points, so he's giving you 6x plus. He's not one of those lock-in value plays like a big who is going to push for a double-double when he starts. So he's more of a GPP play, but I just don't really like anyone else on that team here. Even if Ingram sits, they're all GPP plays to me. So the Dallas side, I'll get started over there. It's probably the guards or pass for me. Luka and Jalen, they keep getting it done. Luka had a rather large shot recently, I think. I'm not sure about that, but possibly a game winner.
That was sweet, man. What a shot!
Yeah, he's fun, man. I do enjoy watching him.
It's funny though. I'm watching that game live, and I'm a Mavericks fan, and Luke is my favorite player, so I'm rooting for it to go in. But my DFS gut was saying miss it because I had so many players in that game. I wanted overtime.
Yeah, I know the feeling. But well, you took the win, which is not the worst thing. So
true.
10-9 or 10-7. I don't know if I'm ready to go there. He's getting there with the 50 fantasy point nights, not really smashing it with the 70s. But depends on how everything comes together with value plays. He's playable, and same thing with Brunson. That's probably about it for me.
Yeah, Luka at 10-7, maybe some people are going to get afraid because it may blow out, but he hasn't hit value on that 10-7, 11K type number really. And that, I don't think I'm going to go up to that number. Not because I think it's going to blow out. I just, there's enough sharing going on of some of the other guys. Brunson has been the most improved player on the team. So there's a little usage going around. He still dominates usage, but I just don't really want to pay up. The thing that upsets me the most, though, is I can't believe that Jay Kidd stuck with Porzingis coming back, put Brunson back on the bench. It's the most asinine thing I've ever seen. You look at his statistics over the last 2 years when he starts, and he's an elite guard. I mean, he's a 35, 40 fantasy point a night guy. And why you wouldn't just play the big 7'5" stiff, whatever he is at center, let Porzingis play center. Dwight Powell stinks. He needs to be on the bench. They should be starting Luka, Brunson, Hardaway, Finney-Smith, and Porzingis. So that gets me all worked up because I think Brunson at the sub-6 price at 5.7 is a great play. However, I get concerned that he's going to get lost in the shuffle on the full minutes now that he's coming off the bench. So probably not going to go there either. I doubt that I'm going to have any Mavs tonight. So I know that's a weird thing, but I just don't feel good about any of their prices. I think if you get sucked back into Porzingis at 6.7, he'll, get a hangnail or soften up and have a bad game. So I hate to sound sour, but you just can't trust him. And so I'm, I know it's weird against possibly the one of the 2 or 3 worst teams in the league, but just don't feel good about the Mavs tonight as far as rostering anybody in DFS. And I think Jay Kidd in games where he feels he's going to coast, and I take the Houston Rockets game as an example. Go back and look at that box score. He played, this is no joke, I swear, I'm not kidding, played all 15 guys in the first half. 15. And he has a tendency to do that in games he thinks they can pull out. And Houston kept making little runs at him, making it closer, but the Mavs just, finished with their regulars and won by like 10 or 12. So I think he may go back to that model, and you're going to see more Reggie Bullock, Frank Ntilikina, Sterling Brown, Willie Cauley-Stein, maybe even a little Boban or Josh Green. So if he's going to be going deep, I don't think there's a lot of value in the Mavs.
Yeah, a lot of these guys GPP only for me, like Porzingis. All right, Coach, halfway through the slate, let's invite folks to come grab our lineups tonight at dfscoachtalk.com. That's where you sign up, and then we invite you into our Discord where we provide you with the lineups. We'll have a full DraftKings clipboard for you tonight, core plays and other pivots to fill out your lineup. Then we'll have our full FanDuel and Yahoo lineups for your cash games and your GPPs. What else, Coach?
Well, if on DraftKings, that clipboard has really become popular. It's a unique thing that we offer that I don't believe any other provider offers. And if you play DraftKings, or that's your only site you play, we really are the provider for you, because we give you a starting highlighted 5 players to start your core build. And then, staying within the DraftKings guidelines, we're going to give you a bunch of players at the different positions that we feel are strong candidates to fill out your roster. So it gives you a really good heads up on putting the right team together on DraftKings. And it's a no-brainer on FanDuel and Yahoo, where we're providing a cash/hybrid. Our hybrid is basically single entry GPP. And then we also provide a GPP lineup. So you're getting 2 lineups for both of those sites. So it is a great time to get in, with us. We're, known a lot for our NBA, our coverage and background, and our consistency of winning for 7 years straight. So we'd love to have you jump in. You can try us for as little as 3 days for $10 or 5 days for $19. So give us a shout. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can ask some questions. We can direct you from there. But just give us that quick thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, give us a quick comment. That's the perfect spot. Where do I sign up, or enjoy the pod, or whatever. Just that really helps us move up in the algorithm. And while you're at it, click that little bell in the upper corner. That will give you an alert when any of our podcasts post. If you're listening on audio, wherever it is, Amazon Music, that's new to the party, or iTunes or Spotify, Apple Podcasts, take a second on there. Give us the high rating, the 5-star, whatever the site offers, and a quick comment. If you do that, you get into a drawing for a free 5-day all-access membership to Coach Talk. And so we'd love to have you jump in there. That's drawn at the end of each month. And the last point I wanted to make, Andrew, and I'll let you answer this, as it's become sort of a rolling joke now, is when you sign up for Coach Talk, do you only get the sport you sign up for?
You get all 4, actually. You won't get much baseball right now in the wintertime. But
Korean baseball's going.
Yeah. Well, that was last year. We covered that. But you get PGA twice a week, full tournament lineups, and then weekend only. And you get NFL, let's see, Thursdays, 3 days a week, all the showdown slates, main slate, doing great there. So you get them all, Coach. It's just
Awesome.
However long you want to be with us, pick that membership, and you get all the sports.
Let's go. What are you waiting for? Let's go.
Let's do it. All right, let's do the second half of the slate. Miami, Denver. We got some big totals here, or bigger totals coming in the second half of the slate, but not this one, Coach. 205.
Yeah.
Miami favored by 2 on the road. Injury news. Strus is out. For Denver, we have Michael Porter Jr. out. Monty Morris probable. So what do you have here?
Not much. This is going to be my short game, and I'll cover both teams in one shot and then let you take it from there. I will say it's Miami by 1.5, like you said. So, it should be a contested game, but 103 implied for Miami, 101.5 for Denver. This just seems like a beatdown game, a defensive, more throwback, lower scoring, great defense from the Miami side. They can really lock people down. Bam is athletic enough to get out and bother the Joker enough that 11K is a little pricey. Now, he's phenomenal. He's probably, he and Giannis are the best 2, DFS players going, in my opinion. But, the prices are pretty high on the main guys for Miami. 7-9 Lowry, 9-3 Butler, 8-1 Bam. This just doesn't seem like a conducive matchup. And then on the other side, you're taking a risk with everybody. Now, where are those Michael Porter Jr. minutes going to go? You might get a nice little jump to PJ Dozier, who I think is a playable commodity at 3.3, but it's risky because you may get some Bones Highland, JaMychal Green. You're going to get a lot of mixture, Jeff Green. So I just don't feel good about this game, and I'm pretty much going to just pass.
Yeah, I don't love the game overall. Both teams are top 5 defensively this year in terms of efficiency. They are sort of middle of the road in pace. And I don't like those DraftKings prices for Miami. But Lowry is still cheap on FanDuel, 6,200. And 3 out of the last 4, he's been around 40 fantasy points, even a 50. He had a triple-double. And until FanDuel prices him up, I'm going to keep going there at 6,200.
That's a misprice for sure.
Yep. That's probably it for Miami for me. And then on Denver, it's going to be PJ Dozier and or Will Barton. Depending on how your lineup comes together, they're going to give you some flexibility because they're both shooting guard and small forward eligible on both sites. Barton's had some good games recently. Dozier, like you said, I think he'll step up and get more minutes. He's not a lock-in guy for any particular fantasy point number, but those 2 guys I think are worth a look tonight with Porter Jr. out.
Yeah, normally I jump on somebody from Denver because, you figure you lose one of your elite players, that usage is going to be a burst to somebody. But Porter Jr.'s pretty much been invisible this year. I mean, losing him isn't going to be that big of a blow, in my opinion, as far as from a DFS standpoint. I think they'll just disseminate that usage amongst 3 or 4 guys. So that's why I'm not running that way.
All right. 3 more games to go here, Coach, all at 10 o'clock or later, starting with Atlanta and Golden State. 222 total, our highest so far. Golden State favored by 3.5 at home. This is a front end for Atlanta and a back end for Golden State. The news here, we've got Collins probable, and on the Golden State side, we have Iguodala questionable. So what are you thinking here?
Well, I mean, Golden State 3.5-point favorite, so it should be a fairly close game. You got those back-to-backs for both and different sides, which makes it a little confusing. But good implied totals, 109.5 for Atlanta, 113, which is the winner thus far for Golden State. We know they can score it, but they're also been tough defensively. They're right up the top. So, yeah, this is tricky. What's funny to me, Andrew, is it's not going to be for the faint of heart tonight, because these last 3 games, you could have 3/4 of your lineup in these last 3 games because they're all higher than the early games. So you may have to see yourself down there in the bottom 10% for a while, but if you stay patient, these last games are tough. Trae Young's playable at 9.6 to me. I know he's been super inconsistent at times. I think he's very playable. Not trusting John Collins with the possible injury, but he is explosive, but he does get Draymond Green. Clint could play. Problem is tonight, that center position is just jammed. I mean, there's great value and some other good plays, but Capella wouldn't be the worst play at a very fair price of 7-1 with Golden State, playing small ball a lot. They'll play Bielitsa at center, Porter at center at times. Looney holds his own, but he's not a big minutes guy. So really from the Atlanta side, I'm considering Young. I'm considering Capella more so in GPPs. But after that, and they're starting to use the bench more. You're getting Hunter at times playing well, but he really disappointed the other day. Reddish has been super inconsistent, but showing promise. Your boy Herter. I mean, there's just a lot of guys, Lou Williams, that need some minutes and usage. And that does scare me a little bit for the Bogdanoviches and those guys. But I still think Trae is in such a great spot. You got to consider him here, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, it's the 1, 2, 3 positions are in play for Atlanta. Trae Young, Bogdanovich, and Hunter. And it is crowded there with that bench, but all the prices are coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's starting to, like Bogdanovich, I don't think I've played at all this year, even though I really...
And you're his agent.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I love him historically, as our members know. But he's trending up and his price is coming down a little bit. So it's almost time to go there. Yeah. And Hunter, like you said, he's sort of hit or miss. If he's hitting his threes, watch out at 4,000 on DraftKings. If he's not, you can get a dud. Those guys are playable for me. With the Golden State side, Poole has really been scoring it here, Coach. 3 straight games with at least 25 actual points.
Yeah.
And his production and his amount of shooting is really cutting into Curry. Curry's just not having the ceiling games recently. So for me, it's Poole out of that backcourt or bust. And, that might be it for me with Golden State. It's a good environment for them because Atlanta plays fast. They're 7th, and they're not good defensively this year so far. They're 27th.
Right.
So you could sneak another guy in here, but Wiggins doesn't shoot much. Looney doesn't play much. And then the bench, to me, it's actually a big factor here if Iguodala plays or not. If he's out,
Right.
Then maybe you can get one of these guys if they're cheap on that site. For example, Peyton is cheap on DraftKings, but not FanDuel. Bielitsa, 3,600 on DraftKings. There's a maybe for me. He's not getting huge minutes, but he's pretty productive while he's out there.
Right.
So, maybe a GPP play over on this side, but I do like Poole.
I'm with you on the Poole bandwagon. I mean, I think I've played him since the preseason. I've probably rostered Jordan Poole more than anybody else in the league. As crazy as that is, it's just his game is accelerated, and you saw it in preseason that he was going to be a big player here, and he's taking full advantage of that and definitely taking some of the heat off of Curry. Now, his shot selection at times is a little bizarre, but we don't care about that at DFS. As long as you make your we don't care if you shoot 20%, just keep firing. So I really do like Jordan Poole until he gets over 6K. I've been saying all along that I'm going to keep rostering him, and he's almost there at 5.8, but I'll take it. The guy that I sort of like tonight, Andrew, this could be my value pick of the day. Very dangerous. May play him in one cash lineup, but definitely in a GPP, and that's Damien Lee. He's only 3.8. He is the first guard off the bench. He's gotten good, consistent minutes. Now, I know Gary Payton is also getting some of those minutes, but, with Curry on a back-to-back, and, Lee sometimes, if Poole's not hitting, will get those minutes. Sometimes he'll spell Curry. So I like Lee to get 25, 28 minutes and be a good enough guy to make value work at 3.8, but not a cinch, but a guy I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and for me, it's a good reminder. If you're playing, let's say, multiple lineups, or you have a lot invested in Poole, you might want to just play one cheap lineup with Lee instead, just in case it's one of his nights, because he can pop off for sure. And with the back-to-back, you never know how it's going to play out. All right, Coach, the other 10 o'clock game is also interesting to me. Phoenix and Sacramento with a 222.5 total. Phoenix favored by 2.5 on the road. And DeAndre Ayton's out, so we've got some things to talk about there. And Sacramento is healthy, but they're coming in after a back-to-back. So who do you like here?
Yeah, Sacramento with a really tough loss yesterday, too. So you wonder how they're going to bounce back today. But the implied totals are terrific for both teams. Phoenix 114 and Sacramento even at 111.5. Phoenix is not the same defensive team that they were last year. I don't know if it's, hangover from making the finals or whatever, but they just don't look like the same team, especially on the defensive side, which is very surprising. So lots of guys in play here, Andrew. This game could be a high scoring game. Chris Paul's all the way up to 8.7, which is a little hard to swallow. And Devin Booker's at 9.2. It's just tough because you got still those two guys, one or the other, can have a big night. And the other one plays second banana, but it's hard to spend that money unless you feel really, really solid about it. Fox, Halliburton, and Hield are not the best defenders. Halliburton's certainly the best of the three. And I think he starts on Booker. And, it makes me want to lean a little bit to Chris Paul here at 8.7. Phoenix needs some wins, and Sacramento's the kind of team they need to beat. So I think Paul steps up. He's definitely in consideration for me. The center situation, I don't know what to tell you, man. McGee, I plugged him in the other day, and he did, he was okay. He had one game he was bad, one game he was good. So just like you would expect from JaVale McGee at 4K, again, we're in that jammed up center situation on value. So I'm interested in your opinion there. I know Frank Kaminsky has been playing some of that spot, but I still probably will have McGee on one of my lineups just because he's that cheap. When you only have to get to 20 fantasy points to get to value, that's great. However, you just can't really get away with a guy with 17 fantasy points and expect to really cash. So it's a conundrum here, Andrew. I'm going to throw the big words at you. What is your solving to this conundrum for Phoenix?
Well, McGee, I don't know if you can really solve McGee. JaVale is, he's the Shaqtin' a Fool MVP.
Yeah.
He's an incredible athlete. He's got amazing upside, but he can disappear. He can get into foul trouble. So, before the Drummond news, I was more interested in him. Now, I still have some interest because it's a good matchup. You can do well at the center spot against Rashawn Holmes. So McGee definitely playable on both sites. And Frank Kaminsky is in play for me as well because he's power forward eligible on both sites. So I'm more likely to have him because of that. But he's been playing, upwards of high 20s minutes, 30 fantasy points. He's a ball player, and I like the way he fits into the roster here tonight as a power forward. So both playable. I lean Kaminsky because he's a power forward. And I'm with you with the guards too. Paul has been really consistent here lately. Picked it up. 87 is tough though, because he's not really a 50 fantasy point guy usually. He's more of a mid 40s. So, solid cash game option though. And with Sacramento, it's tough because, like you said, Phoenix 19th defensively this year. We love their pace. They're third, high total. So let's get some Sacramento guys in too. But Fox hasn't been shooting it well. Halliburton and Hield and Barnes are all that mid-price range. So, for me, to be honest, Buddy Hield is the most attractive at 6,000. He's really shooting it well. He's shooting more than 10 threes per game. So he's the guy I'm most likely to play on Sacramento, but I do want to play probably one or two Phoenix guys.
Yeah, Sacramento's a tough one to figure. I agree with you on Fox, and I've been saying it all along. He and Moran I had as pretty even players coming into this season, and Jaw's just blown him away, in my opinion, because he's hitting the outside shot in the threes where Fox still just needs to drive to score. And he will have McGee, a decent part of that game in there protecting the rim. So I'm not going up to him. I watched Halliburton. He does not look good, man. I know he's only 6K, but his consistency is just all over the place this year. I don't trust him. I don't like his body language out there. There's a couple of things. I think when Hield comes in the game and he comes off the bench, I think he's going to draw some Mikal Bridges defense. They've shown that matchup in the past, and I really respect Bridges' defense. So, yes, they do go to Buddy a lot, and he does get good minutes off the bench, but inconsistent and a little scary for me on this big of a slate. So even though the total's great and this game makes sense, I'm with you. I would sooner have two Suns and no Kings, more than likely.
Yeah, and the other thing with those guards, you've got Mitchell now coming in. He's a thorn to the side of the opposing team because of his defense, but also the Sacramento guys because he's getting all those minutes.
Yeah.
So, Sacramento a little bit tougher this year to deal with. All right, Coach. Last game of the night: Charlotte and the Lakers, 10:30 Eastern. Highest total on the board right now, 224.5. Lakers favored by 2.5. This is a back-to-back for Charlotte. They lost last night in Staples Center to the other resident there, the other tenant. And PJ Washington's still out. With the Lakers, a guy named LBJ is out, and another guy named AD is questionable with the thumb. So you want to start on Charlotte, so you have to talk about AD?
Well, let's talk about this game because it's probably the key on the entire slate. And I've been watching. I like to watch the Vegas trends when news breaks and they start getting that inside information. And in the last 40 minutes, the line has shrunk to the Lakers only by 2. So at home, the LA Lakers against a road-weary team in the Hornets on a back-to-back, and the Lakers are only favored by 2. That smells very funky to me. Vegas is definitely wanting you to pound the Lakers here. So that gives me a lot of worry. Also, the other side of it is the over-unders drifted up. It's all the way up to 226.5, which is the highest on the board, which means they're looking, I think, for this game to be an up and down game. And two great implied totals. The best combination on the board at 112.25 for Charlotte, 114.25 for the Lakers. So this probably is the game. You got to let it roll out there. And I know, I normally, for some reason, don't have a ton of exposure in late games. It just falls that way, but it's not going to be that way today. I'm definitely going to have exposure here all over the place. And I'll start on the Charlotte side. LaMelo Ball at 9K. He's in play for me. The question I have, though, and that's why I'm not going to commit to him just yet. I need to do some, studying, some coach speak, look at some basketball reference past games, although they're not going to have this combination. But my question, and you can give your opinion on it, is I'm thinking the way that Ball's playing and the fact that Rozier is still coming back and not playing real well yet, that Avery Bradley may start and get the assignment on LaMelo Ball. Now, that doesn't mean that Ball's a fade, but it certainly takes a little luster off that 9K number. So I'm going to do some homework there. If there's any possibility that the combination is what Russ guards LaMelo, then LaMelo's a plug and play 100% guy for me. So I'm going to keep working on that one. Again, like I say, Rozier just not quite playing up to par yet and not making that mid-6 numbers. He's 6'4" on DraftKings. Some interest in Gordon Hayward. It's 6'9". It's that sub-7 number. Interest in Miles Bridges at 7'7". If Davis sits, if Davis plays, I'm not going to play him. And don't really have interest in Mason Plumlee here. So I need the news. It's all about determining if Ball's the playable commodity and possibly sliding a Hayward or Bridges based on the Davis news.
Yeah, very similar here. I'm interested in LaMelo, but worried about Avery Bradley. My instinct would be that he guards Rozier. I think the size, makes a little more sense, but it wouldn't surprise me if he guards LaMelo.
Yeah.
So it's just a little bit tricky because Bradley is a just terrific on-ball defender, one of the best, and that's why he's starting because of his defense. So that one's just going to be tough to evaluate. With the rest of Charlotte, I don't love that it's a back-to-back. That worries me for Hayward a little bit. I'm a little more interested in Bridges, but he is pricey, and if AD plays, like you said. So, the other guy I want to mention here is Cody Martin. Another only DraftKings here, 3,600, not on FanDuel where he's 5,000, but he's done well in back-to-backs, 30 minutes in the last one.
Yeah.
So he's another guy in that range on DraftKings you can add to the pool. But, because of the pricing and the way that it works out on the back-to-back, I'm not as interested in Charlotte as I think I would be normally. And then with the Lakers, it's hard to zero in there too because we don't know about AD. If he plays, he's ultra expensive. With the thumb, I don't think I'm going to go there. Just too risky with him, of all players, to have a thumb issue.
Yeah.
Because for any basketball player, that's an important digit. So I don't want to play AD. Westbrook 9,400 on FanDuel is attractive to me, but 1 for 13 last game out is not very attractive.
No.
And then everybody else is just a mishmash of blah after blah, performance, minutes, usage. If AD sits, you could look at DeAndre or Dwight, but all these other centers we've talked about that are good value on the slate, you don't need to. So bottom line is it might be Westbrook or bust for me on the Lakers side.
Yeah, it's like you said, this game has a ton of drama that's going to unfold. And if there's ever a time to make sure you set up your roster properly for late swap, this is the time to do it. Because if we get news that AD is out or anything else, transpires here, you're going to have to make some switches. I've said all along with Russell Westbrook, I know he's had a few good games, but he just has looked awful. And he consistently misses that outside shot, but still takes it. But, 10-4 on DraftKings for a guy that's shooting the way he is really brutal. 9-4 on FanDuel you can consider. But here's the thing. If Davis sits, I see why Vegas has this as such a close game, with a 2-point spread. But if Davis sits, I feel like I'm forced to play Westbrook. The usage numbers with LeBron and Davis off the floor just absolutely catapult through the roof. All of that usage is not going to go to Bradley, Bazemore, Jordan, Reeves, Monk, Rondo. Those guys stink. Howard. It's going to go to 2 people. So if AD sits, I'm plugging 100% in. I don't care if it's 10-4. I don't care if it's 100-4. I just am going to play Westbrook in that situation, and I'm going to play Carmelo Anthony. Those 2 guys are going to take a million shots. If they're going to stay in this game, it's a high total game. Those 2 have to play. Now, if Anthony Davis plays, then bets are off. It completely changes everything. So that's the news I need to know. Because if Davis is out, it's automatic Westbrook Anthony. If Davis is in, then I reshuffle the deck. And the other thing is, if Davis is out, then Miles Bridges is probably going to get a roster call for me. So I could have 3-4 guys from this game. And weirdly enough, it's if Anthony Davis is out. If he plays, it's going to shift around. I will have exposure, but not to that level. And I think, it's just one of those situations where, you've got veteran guys in Westbrook and Anthony. They know they're going to be told, hey, green light on everything. We need your scoring tonight. And they're going to let it fly.
Yeah, man. If we only knew everything at 6:30 that we're going to know at 10:20 Eastern every night. That's the NBA DFS world for you, right, Coach?
Well, remember the old days where you couldn't late swap on some of the sites?
Yeah.
Then you were really screwed. But now you can at least, and in this game, Andrew, you can set it up where if you fade Russ, you can go to Ball, or if Davis sits, you can go to Bridges and Hayward. There's different combinations that you can at least set up for yourself to late swap.
Yep, absolutely. Set it up so that you can know what that plan is going to be.
Right.
And the one saving grace also is that, depending on that AD news, you may get to shift to one of the players in the 10 o'clock games if it comes early enough. So
yeah,
we'll be working on it all night. Join us at dfscoachtalk.com if you want those lineups. We'd love to have you. And then make sure to tune in again tomorrow. Coach will have the 3-game NBA DFS slate for you. And if you jump in today, we'll get you the NFL lineups tonight. Can't wait to put those together. So thank you all for tuning in. On behalf of the coach and the rest of the DFS Coach Talk team, I'm Andrew Hansen. We'll see you next time as we look to crush it in DFS.